Hey there, your nature-based girly coach Raynell. I wanted to share a post today about the concept of institutional inequities and how to recognize that institutional inequities are actually existing in your organization or your industry. Because naming this came up in another coaching session with a leader that I just had. So here we have somebody who is very talented, very skilled, very qualified, and maybe now in this moment in her career, overqualified for the organization. And so we noticed that there was a pattern within her industry that actually coming across this sort of gate or roadblock in her career has happened before. So previous organizations where they've done direct service to community, so community-based organizations where she's recognizing not being compensated fairly, that she is usually advocating for her worth and her value, whether it be in the compensation or just even the workload making more sense, and looking and seeking for higher positions in the organization. And because they're not there, or something else happens and another opportunity comes across where they do find that they're valued, they tend to go there. So how do we know that this is actually something we can name as institutional inequity? Is that within her industry, she's finding that pattern that she's coming across. So when leaders come to me and they get coached, it's usually about, oh, should I stay? Should I take more classes and get a different degree or higher degree? What do I do next? And then we come to realize that this pattern starts to show up, and that's when I start to recognize this is actually how our society is designed. So it goes back to one of my pillars, right? That society pillar that is shaped like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is where we start to see the symptoms of that structure of our hierarchy start to play out in our leaders' career experience. So being able to recognize that these patterns are structural, not so much that it's a lack of what this leader can bring to the table or anything to do with the leader themselves, other than that they're outgrown the organization or too highly skilled to be compensated and resourced the way that they feel value is being exchanged back to them. The point I want to make is that because it's a systemic thing, because it's a part of the structure, our community organizations aren't resourced enough because they need to stay fitting within that structure of our hierarchy. And so there will be no place for us leaders to go if we're looking for higher positions and higher pay. So what do we do then? Now it becomes, now that I have this awareness and I can name that it is actually a structural thing, and there's nothing wrong with me, nothing wrong with the leader, what do I do with that information? What choice do I want to make for myself? And so a lot of times I'm going to be guiding back this leader into themselves, and the question is always going to come, because I'm your coach, what is your actual true purpose? Why are you here on earth? What is that true gift you have to contribute to community? Can you name that? Can you identify more clearly what the thread of that story is, no matter what institution, what agency you've been in over the course of your career? Start to let that purpose emerge into a leader's awareness. So then the work becomes finding that true purpose and aligning that purpose with the next place and making sure those values exist, and that you can name what you want for your next step, for your next move. I'm going to drop a few reflection questions at the bottom if you're at that point where you're starting to recognize patterns in your career, or you're even at a place of just like searching for the next thing and you don't know where to start. It's important to recognize whether those industry or institutional inequities are there or not, which they probably are, so that you can name it and then move on and focus on the thing that actually matters for you, right? Where in this movement of our society for the greater good is your true place? All right, until next time, I will drop some things for you in the description, and please comment and start and engage in this conversation with me. All right, see you later.